I'd run into somebody who said, I'm looking for particularly an orange motorcycle. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Moto Stories with Unkie Phil. And of course,
Aunt Merritt.
So cool. I am so happy right now. We talk about when John Meckelfresh was here and when all my different friends come in. It has been one of my things since we started this to be able to have Merritt come in and do a Moto Stories with us. It's so cool. Now, in our previous episode, we talked about kind of how we met, and we talked about how I won her over using a motorcycle and my motorcycle was kind of as my wingman, so to speak, right? But this is really cool because when you meet me and you hang out with me for any period of time whatsoever, I'm going to force a motorcycle on you. You're going to end up with a motorcycle or a scooter or something. All the guys standing behind the camera right now are shaking their head and they're like, yeah, it's kind of hard to resist. But for real, when we started, you had never been even on the back seat before. Nope.
But, I think it was probably fairly predictable that about one season of riding on the back would go by before I, who has a tendency to be a little bit independent, would want my own. And of course, I had met the right person to teach me. Yeah.
And so the hunt was on. I mean, and this is my favorite thing. Like, you can't give me a better mission than to be like, okay, you got to find a motorcycle for the woman you love. And I was just like, oh, this is great. This is the coolest thing ever. And so what I was able to do, I had all these criteria because first motorcycle, right? And we all know if you're into your first motorcycle, there's about 9,000 things going through your head. And you're like, oh, well, do I get a Harley like they tell me I should? Or do I start life a little more sensibly? So I had found Merritt a CL360. Now, Honda, CL360 is a Honda. It's a scrambler. It's a parallel twin. It's a CB350 with the dirty mind is all it is. That's all that bike is. It's not a dirt bike by any standard. If you take a CL360 into the dirt, you might die. But it is a pretty bike, and it's got the scrambler pipes. And the one I found was cherry. It was so pretty. It was gorgeous, and it was orange.
Orange with the black inset, nice unpitted chrome, crash bars, perfect for a brand new rider.
It looked new.
It did. It was absolutely amazing.
So I got the world's biggest pair of crash bars I could buy. These were like Craig Vetter masterpieces. These things were bigger than the whole bike was. You could have used these on a 19-cylinder bike and it would have been fine. The fact they were on a twin, no problem. So I bolted those on and we went off to the Shoregate parking lot.
Yes.
And now, keep in mind, which
was funny because we didn't really live by there anymore, but we bought it about a mile from there.
We did.
So you took me back to your old stomping grounds to teach me how to ride.
That was where I delivered papers. Yep. Right. And we did buy it not a mile from there. That's true. I forgot about that. So it was very close to where we purchased it. And I thought this was so cool and this was so much fun because, we had your helmet. Yeah. We'd gotten you a helmet. You had your gloves on, but you could already drive a stick.
Yes.
That's cool. Okay, so being able to drive stick is just if you're going to drive a motorcycle.
Because our mutual friend who introduced me to you is the one who taught me how to drive a stick.
There you go. And so, that was kind of a cool thing. I was like, my girlfriend can drive stick. That's rad. That's pretty cool. And getting you on that CL360. Now, again, we should probably let the people know that you're 5'4", right?
Yes.
On your license.
I'm 5'4".
Okay. All right. That's not a tall person. And so when you're a 5'4" and you're getting a motorcycle, it kind of can be a challenge. And the Scrambler doesn't sit low to the ground. It's not a Honda Rebel. So that was what I was a little nervous. I was a little concerned because there's, the weight's a little higher, but you did great.
Yeah, well, when you choose a bike that's that size, it's okay. It wasn't overstepping. It wasn't going straight to a Harley.
Almost no chance of a wheelie. Yeah.
Which was good.
Pretty safe.
Those were for future things. But yeah, it was a great choice and I was really happy with it and I was really excited for you to teach me how to ride.
The funny thing about the CL360 was once we decided that the CL360 wasn't the right bike for the freeway. It wasn't the right bike for doing on longer trips. It was shorter legs. But every time we'd do a scooter ride, Merritt would come out on the CL360. And she loved this because there were scooters she could ride. But no, she's like, I think I want to ride my bike. So I'd show up on some cool old Vespa, some cool old Lambretta with a bunch of guys that were riding on what?
Vintage scooters.
Vintage scooter. And Merritt would show up on her CL360, and I swear to God, it was just knock our dicks in the dirt a little bit. Because she would show up and she would just be like, oh, boys, I see you've got your scooters out today. That's just great. And she'd just go ripping around us. It really made us feel humiliated because, of course, CL360. So she liked kind of rubbing it into us a little bit. But I had gotten approached by somebody. I don't even know how it happened, but through the motorcycle shows, international motorcycle shows, I'd run into somebody who said, I'm looking for particularly an orange motorcycle. And it was Hooters. So Hooters wanted to buy an orange motorcycle. And I went, I've got just the deal for you. Follow me. And it was the guys who worked at Hooters, the guys that ran this promotion were like, that's amazing. It's vintage, it's old school, it's orange, it's everything we needed. And honestly, they could have stopped at orange. It would have been fine. So she'd already had her new bike. So you'd had your CB500. And in our garage, we have a principle called Noah's Garage. So Noah's Garage means you never need an owner's manual for anything. If you're going to buy one Rally 200,
buy two.
Buy two. Mm-hmm. That's right. And so now you have a 3-dimensional owner's manual for the one that breaks. You can just take the other one apart, find out the way it's supposed to be, and then fix the other one. And I've been doing that since you've known me.
Yes.
We've always had Noah's Garage. So right after we got Merritt her CB500 in Bacchus Candy Green, it's gorgeous. Beautiful with the black inserts again, very retro, very British. CB500, don't call it a 550. Those have no style. This was the CB500. I got myself a CB500 in also Bacchus Candy Green metallic. Yeah. Mine had the weirdest aftermarket pipes. They were square, go figure. Weird.
70s.
But anyway, 70s, yeah. But so we had moved on and enjoyed the rest of our season riding on the bigger bikes. And then we went to the motorcycle show. And we go to the motorcycle show, and for us, this is an event every year in the wintertime.
In January.
In January.
Yeah.
And we're roaming around as you do. And what do we see?
Well, there was a giant Hooters display and all the beautiful blonde girls. And right in the center of all of them was my motorcycle, right up on stage.
And these women were just like caressing it and just dripping off of it and worshiping it. And men were buying way too many raffle tickets to try to win it. And so Merritt goes up, and I believe you were assaulted by a bunch of them. Was like, would you like to buy some tickets?
Yeah, right. And I was just like, well, I've already had that motorcycle, you know. So it was a fun conversation.
It was great. And she's like, oh,
I did get a picture with them. I wish we could find it. That was before cell phone
It was long before digital photography, I assure you. And so that was so cool to see that. And then, so our next bike that you got right after that, we had your CB500 for a while.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a 1972. So it was, a little bit long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And we noticed that Merritt liked to ride fast and take a few chances. So we thought
Who knows where I got that from? I have no idea.
And so we kind of thought that maybe she should try a sport bike, right? I mean, that's kind of what it was, is maybe let's just see.
But not too big.
Right. And at the time I'd done a bunch of sport bike stuff. I'd done my Interceptor. And so I had done some cross-country touring on Interceptors and stuff. So I had sport bikes. So we figured, let's get Merritt a sport bike. And I think we did all right with that first one.
Yeah, so it was the CBR 400R.
Oh, I thought we started with the FC1.
Oh, yeah.
So we started with an FC400.
Sorry, it's a little unmemorable.
I know, it wasn't. Look, she had this bike for a minute and a half. I'm not joking when I tell anybody who's watching.
It was low stakes.
It was low stakes. This thing was ridden hard and put away wet.
Yeah.
Not all the plastic was pointing the same direction.
Black tank, but you could see at least two other colors raging underneath it.
It was all there. It was definitely an FC400.
Yeah.
And it did run great. There was not a problem with its mechanics.
Yes.
But if you looked at it the right way, you could see all the zip ties at the same time. And that's just not what you needed better.
But most importantly, it did say that I could go from a standard to more of a sports standard.
Oh, yeah, you could.
And so then that led into the part I was so excited and started to tell about.
Is?
The CBR 400R.
Yeah, because that's a bike you can't get in this country.
Right.
So that bike had to get its passport stamped a few times. That bike came to us hidden behind a dirty old stove in the back of a leaking Ford Econoline sex fan. And that was Y2K.
Yeah.
So we had gone up to Canada to visit our friends for Y2K. I had loaded the top of this conversion van with ammunition and guns. because we were going to Canada for Y2K.
I mean, remember what that was? I mean, it was...
We all freaked out.
Yeah, it was...
We all freaked out.
Yeah.
But I had made arrangements with the guy from Vancouver to ship the bike to Toronto.
Yeah.
So the bike had come into Vancouver... it came into Vancouver legally from Japan. Mm-hmm. Japanese
probably
domestic
with
market
its owner.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's got VTEC, yo. And we picked that up, in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And then we got a stove from my buddy Rich, who was throwing it to the curb, and I was like, that's perfect for powder coating. So we put the stove into the back of the van.
Yep.
We had the bike pushed against the wall of the van with a blanket over it, and then this dirty, nasty stove sitting there. Oh, man.
So we brought it into the country, and it was great. I love that bike. It was... What was the Redline? Like 16,000 or
ridiculous.
something? It was just crazy.
It was insane.
And I really loved it, and I just felt like I felt really connected to that bike.
Yeah.
At the time, though, I was riding a lot on the freeway, and it was just because my work commute was
You
like...
were going about 50 miles per trip, like 50 miles each way.
Yeah, and so it was just a lot for it, although I can still picture like that long sweeper, and it was really cool on there. But
if you could, for the record, if you ever wanted to know when Merritt was coming, it was this. It was... That was the sound Merritt made everywhere. 4 into 1, 9 million RPM.
Yeah.
It was great. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And that bike, and it was the perfect hurricane paint livery.
Yeah.
That white and red.
Yeah.
Oh, so nice. So sexy. And it was great. But of course, for her to ride to work on the freeway at 75 or 80 miles an hour, it was like, and mosquitoes would just follow her. So then we decided that we needed a little more.
Yeah.
Yep. And so then what happened?
Well, if I have the timeline right, that's when you found yet another Honda,
We
right?
like Hondas, yeah.
We going south for Honda?
I
Is
think
that the
we
one?
went south for Honda at this point.
All right.
Yeah.
So somehow so I don't even know how you found it. All I remember is dropping you off at the airport with nothing but your tank bag and a helmet.
I had my leathers on. I
Yeah.
had my tank bag and I had a helmet. And I had a ticket for Dallas, Texas. And eBay was just kind of becoming popular. And I made an arrangement with a gentleman in Dallas, Texas to pick me up at the airport and take me back to his house so I could buy his 1989 Honda NT650 GT Hawk, or Hawk GT. That's the bike that has a long name. It's also called like an NC31. It's just got numbers. So it's a great motorcycle. Rear suspension designed by Elfs. It's just amazing. Now, but it's a beautiful bike. It always has been a bike I've loved, and it's a V-twin, which I really like V-twins. And I went and picked this up, and the guy swore to me, he promised me that it was ready to ride to Cleveland, no questions asked. It's perfect, except for the tires from 1989. It had 6,000 miles on it and the original factory rubber, which at this point was legit 20 years old, right? Or plus.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying. So I got on the bike and I realized I couldn't ride it out of Texas, let alone to Cleveland. So I went to a Honda shop, bought 2 tires, and the guy was like, "Yeah, I can't do them. We're busy. We got work to do. We're busy." So I was like, "Oh, fuck you!" And I changed 2 tires in the guy's parking lot. So I didn't want to do it anywhere else. I wanted to do it in front of him to be like, "You wouldn't work on my bike. You wouldn't take my money. So I'm going to be an example to all of your customers." And I did. I changed 2 tires right in front of his shop. And got on the bike and then rode home from Dallas, Texas to Cleveland, Ohio in 16 and a half hours. Do the math. That's really fast. At one point in Tennessee, I stopped in Memphis and got chased out. Riot. That was weird. The cop told me not to park my bike anywhere on the street, to go park it in the Hilton parking lot, and then to make one trip down Beale Street, then leave. He was right. And then I ran into a gas station, 110 miles on a tank of gas, if you weren't in a hurry. And I saw these 3 state troopers in there, in one gas station. And I said to the state troopers, I said, "Hey guys, how's just I'm concerned about safety. It's 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. How are the roads ahead?" And the guy said, "Well, the only 3 cops within the next 300 miles are sitting right here." And I was like, "Oh, game on." And I, in my life, had never done a long ton. And a long ton is when you do 100 miles in 1 hour. So that's a ton is doing 100 miles an hour. A long ton is doing 100 miles in 1 hour. And I was like, this is it. This is my opportunity to do a long ton. And I got myself right down on my tank bag. On that, it still doesn't have a windshield on it. It's a GT650 Hawk. And I just kept the speedometer at about 115. And that bike just drank an entire tank of gas. But I did get a long ton. And I actually did 100 miles in 1 hour. It was great. And then I made it to Columbus, Ohio, and it started raining sideways. And I had to break into my buddy Scott's house and steal a sweatshirt, a raincoat, left him a note. And then got back on the road and got home in, under 17 hours from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
On your anniversary present.
Yes.
That was your anniversary present.
And that one's one of the best.
It was.
Yeah.
We loved that Hawk.
Love that Hawk.
We loved that Hawk.
Yeah.
And then we decided that the Hawk, being a little, it's a vintage bike. It has historical plates on it.
Yeah.
We decided to go a little bit more modern then.
Yep.
And so a year went by, and I was at AMA Vintage Days, as we do. And AMA Vintage Days always falls on our anniversary.
Yes.
So pretty much Merritt's gotten used to getting a motorcycle for her anniversary. And I saw this beautiful SV6 sitting there. And I was like, well, we love V-twins. Mm-hmm. You love V-twins.
Yeah.
Now we've got better brakes. Now
it's breaking out of the Honda mold.
It was a Suzuki.
Yeah.
But it was fuel injected.
Yeah.
And that was nice.
Lots going for it.
It had a lot going for it.
Yeah.
And it was a really pretty bike. So we got you the SV. Mm-hmm. And the SV was great. And right after that...
It was an SV650S.
SV6, that's right.
For those who are trying to actually visualize what's happening here.
Yeah. It was the S, which is extra sexy. It is extra sexy. But so then we got the GB.
Yeah, GB500.
So I've had a GB500s for a long time.
And it's Noah's Garage.
What's that?
The GBs are in Noah's Garage.
That's right.
There's two of them.
We have two of them. Mm-hmm. So you have to have two GBs. And I got mine has been kind of hacked on. Mine's got a 650cc top end. But yours is like factory.
Yeah.
Like yours is like showroom. So and we love that. How do you feel about that GB?
It's just the easiest bike to ride. It's just other bikes, especially things like the SV650. We've talked about my height and everything. And, sometimes you really have to work at it, or upper body. You've really got to be concentrating. Mm-hmm. But with the GB500, it's just, there's really no thinking or struggling at all. It's seriously just riding it and enjoying it. And so there will be other bikes I know because I'm married to a motorcycle shop owner, but it will always be my bike. It is like it just has a wonderful place in riding for me. So I'm so grateful that you got that for me.
Yeah, it's really one of my favorite bikes. It always was, and the fact that we could both have them is just one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
And it's not even about going out and riding them together, because half the time I'm riding something else and she's riding the GB.
Right.
But it really is one of those things. And when you see Merritt riding the GB, you can tell that she has actually become part of it. like it's on a neural level. That bike with her is just right there. And it is a really funny thing with your history of bikes, because again, 5'4", right? And so this one time, a couple of years back, I'm riding around downtown Cleveland doing my job, picking up motorcycles as I do, and I see this Honda VTR 1000 Super Hawk, right? This is a shit hot motorcycle by anybody's standard, drinks gas like a fiend and just burns tires up. It's a vicious bike. And I got these big, beautiful Jardines on the back that sound like, yeah, it's just, and when it's down low, it's just, and then you just gas it and just, you can hear the earth turning faster because you're riding this motorcycle. And I'm cruising around downtown and I look over and I see this gorgeous Super Hawk, and I'm like, I wish I had that one too. And I was like, that thing's beautiful. In fact, it looks a lot like my bike. Same pipes I have, same windshield I have. Wait a second. Somebody stole my freaking bike. And I was like, yeah, and I was starting to freak out. And I went over and I jammed my pickup truck right in front of it so nobody could come out and take it. I was like, that's my fucking bike. I know it's my bike. And why on earth would it be right in the middle of downtown Cleveland?
Right in front of this gym that has several locations. One on the west side and one downtown.
And she could have gone to the west side one. It's closer to her house, but she decided to rip it all the way downtown since she had 100-some horsepower to play with. Stole my super bike, which, by the way, I mean, look, I am a trained pilot. I have been through pilot training. I am a certified pilot. I can fly an airplane. She's been in an airplane with me flying it. Not the smartest thing she's ever done, but it's true. Now, I had to get checked out before I was allowed to have a solo flight in an airplane. She just took it out of my garage. What was your excuse?
It was the one closest to the door.
Okay, so thank you for watching another great episode of Moto Stories with Unkie Phil. I've created a monster, clearly. Nothing's off limits. Every time we sit on motorcycles, I don't care if it's a Moto Guzzi Grezzo. Merritt's like, I can rock this. We go to Zero Training, the brand new Zero SRF, 140 torques. Merritt sits on it and says what?
I think I need to have one of these.
So yeah, this is it, guys. You think, if you want to say what it's like to marry well above your station, find a girl who doesn't know anything about motorcycles, but is great at everything else. You can train her on the motorcycle part, trust me. You like it?
Thanks, Phil. I love it.
I love it too.
And as I taught Phil, ride fast and take chances.
Oh man. Bum, bum, ba-da, bum, ba, ba, press the red button. Bum, bum, ba-da, bum. Why do we have to do that every time?